All right, here we go. Hey, welcome everyone to the virtual presentation of So You're Thinking of Hosting a Training Event. We're glad you're here. We really are. We are honored that you took time out of your lives and schedules to join us this evening, and we will do our best to make it worth your while. Next slide, please. Agenda. Here's a snapshot of our agenda this evening. This is not going to be a death by PowerPoint presentation. We'll cover facility information next, followed by introductions, objectives, overviews of the event, and then into the meat of the topic, the phases of kick-ass training event, along with discussions, idea sharing, and then resources to wrap it up. Next slide, please. Boom, 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 boom.
Did the next slide go up for you guys? Yep. Okay.
Waiting for it. It's okay.
It's up for me.
It is not up on the big board.
I see facility info. You see, everyone should see a slide that says, for those of you on video, give me a thumbs up if you see a slide that says facility info.
We got it.
All right. Cool. John, you're the loser here.
Yeah, we're a little slow. Okay, hey, we're good. Hey, we're going to pretend that this virtual presentation is a live in-person event. So take a look around, make sure you know where your primary and secondary fire exits are. Please exercise cell phone etiquette. There you go, point to the left. Kindly mute your audio video. No one likes to view your bridge while you're munching on Doritos. And know where your restrooms are for bio breaks. And of course, this is a BYOB event. Don't know what everyone has this evening, but we hope you enjoyed it and you enjoy it in moderation. Next slide, please. Introductions. I'm the easy guy here. I'm John Wasser, the training lead for North Branch. For the most part this evening, I'll be your moderator, MC, so to speak, for the evening, and I will let the rest of the rock stars of the evening introduce themselves, starting with Christy Wells.
Hey team, Christy Wells. I've been with TR since about 2014 and was a Metro admin in the Northern Virginia area. Stepped down for a few months during COVID, moved, and now I'm a Metro admin in Fredericksburg, Virginia, otherwise known as the Rappahannock counties. Leading people to the Kool-Aid is my favorite role in TR. I considered trying something else, but I decided that this local role and local engagement and putting on these training events, this is what I love to do. And so I'm really happy to share some lessons that we've learned. So maybe it's not so painful for others as you're learning the lessons, but I love it. And I'm happy to share whatever I have and turn it over to my friend Neil.
Thank you. Leah's is running a bit late. She's got something that has interfered with her arrival. Thank you for having me. I am a hard hustle baby. That used to be a new gray shirt, but I guess it's been 4 years now. Previously, I was the city admin for Northern New Jersey. I'm in the process of relocating to central Vermont, where I'll be the membership lead. As with Christy, these events are my bread and butter of what I do at Team Rubicon. I actually counted, and in the 18 months prior to the pandemic, I was the point of contact for, or the man behind the curtain for, 90 events. So that's a battle rhythm of 5 events a month that I was some live in-person events that I was somehow involved in. So I'm really anxious to get this party going in terms of having live events again. And I think that's more than what you want to hear from me. I just want to remind everyone of something that John said earlier. We've got lots of folks here who are on low-speed internet, so it would be really helpful if everyone who's not speaking could mute their video as well as their audio. And then if you've got a question, just, you can click on and do that, but help save everybody's bandwidth so they can see the presentation. We don't have fewer hiccups. And now I will be uncharacteristically quiet and toss it
Well, and
off
I do want to
to.
add a fun fact about both Neil and I is that we both operated in the most dense of areas in our former positions, and both of us are moving to new positions where we're going to have to test out our own knowledge in our new position. So it's funny that both Neil and we prepared this presentation when we were in very dense areas, and now we're moving to way less dense areas. So it's kind of fun to see how does this work in new areas, which we understand are, it's a different world. But with that, let me switch the slide. John, back to you, sir.
There you go. Thank you. Folks, you're in for a treat tonight. As you heard the quick bios of Neil and Christy, and you add Leo Wainwright to the mix, you have a certified Special Forces A-team. You really do. The focus of this evening is on training events, not service projects or socials. This is a discussion. It's not a lecture. So please ask your questions. You can put your hand up. You can put a question over in the chat. I'll be your friendly moderator this evening, and so we'll get to them all. All right. And while our presenters have a bona fide wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience, and with the ever-changing world in which we live in, they don't have a monopoly on good ideas. We love idea fairies. We really do. If you have an idea, share it, and we'll either get to it tonight, or we will backtrack and work with your idea sometime later in the future. Our goal for this evening is this: for you to walk away with the knowledge, skills, and abilities to plan a training event. COVID times are, well, Art was real polite this past weekend and said it's a challenge and et cetera, et cetera. COVID times are pain in the butt, folks. I mean, they are a royal pain in the ass, no doubt about it. And we'll get into some specifics later on in the show. But before we get started, just so you know, the big three for putting on a training event are: must be vaccinated to play. That includes your gray shirts and instructors. Social distancing, 6 feet or more, and mask up. Okay? Let's have some fun. And again, we're thrilled you're along for the ride. Neil, Christy, I'm going to shut up and let you guys roll.
Cool. We're going to hold, Leah's got some great perspective. So just FYI, Neil, John, and I did this once for North Branch last year when it looked like we may have been opening up. We decided to do this as we are opening up. And now that we've merged, we're like, man, we need some Midwest cred. We need some street cred with the Midwest. And we brought Leah in, and she's got some great perspective to add. If she comes back, we will come back to these slides. So I'm just marking these slides that Leah would have. We'll come back to her so she can shed some knowledge as her experience on some of the perspective and some of the things to lend themselves to what we're dealing with the TR of today. So Neil, over to you, sir.
So why do we do training? Aside from seeing people that you really like, as I find in these pictures and these slides that we keep posting, the real core of it is it helps us become more capable, better prepared to respond to disasters. It gives us the ability to be the best and the safest we can possibly be in the field. In addition, when we have this training, we go and present ourselves to local emergency managers and mayors and whomever. It lends a bit of cred to say, hey, we're not just making this up as we go along, but we've trained to do this job. And like everything else, every other TR activity, training activities are an opportunity for us to identify leaders. And there's no place where you can see a demonstration of leadership better than on an operation. But number two is during a training session. Next slide, please. But there's a second reason that we do training, and that reason is to create awesome gray shirt experiences. We want to have fun. We want to build lasting connections with other gray shirts, people you're going to see at other trainings and downrange at disaster responses. And I firmly believe that engagement breeds engagement. That when a metro or a state or a rural area is active and can present their gray shirts with a decision, not should I participate in a TR activity, but which TR activity should I participate in. They're going to be engaged, and when the local disaster strikes, they're going to be ready to deploy. And really, that's what it's all about, having the bench strength to get out there in the field with committed gray shirts who have are ready to get shit done. Christy, off to you.
All right, here's classroom participation slide. Get ready, get your fingers ready. What was your first training event? What training are you dying to go to? Throw it in the chat. Some intentional engagement here, but let's talk a little bit about different types of training. And tell me if it was your first event or if it's the one that you want to go to. So first thing, there's different types of training. So there's national training. Anyone have an example? So national training, that includes like train the trainer courses, CI, I'm watching chat go crazy right now. SAW was the one we really want to go to. Core Ops, we've got 300, 400. First ICS 300. Like everyone's got a different training event. Ed had Core Ops with Christy. Yay, Ed! But what is national training? So national training are classes and training events that are held out of national, or they're taught by national resources. So that looks like Train the Trainer, chainsaw instructors 1 and 2, planning section chief, ICS 300, etc. So these are considered national training. That becomes important later on when you put them in EMS, but mostly these are hosted and run out of our, out of headquarters. So we don't normally get involved with putting these on unless you're asked. Like for instance, we've got T3s going out of our talk in Chicago. Be called into it. It's not something normally at a local leader level we would engage with. So let's talk a little bit about branch training. What's branch training? TR1 Train the Trainer want to go. Hey Sharon, there's a TR1 Train the Trainer coming up in September in Chicago. I'm signed up for it. I don't know if my bosses who are all on this phone will let me go, but I tried to sign up for it. But just FYI, there's one coming up in September. Branch training. What's an example of branch training? Sawyer 1, safety, logistics. Oh no, Ben's giving me national ones. Branch training. Where's my typing fingers? What do you got? What do you got? We got assist, SAW 1 and 2, advanced SAW, core ops. These are the ones that we can put on, that we use our North Branch resources to put these trainings on. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to decide which training again. Then there's things that TR calls workshops. Workshops are not formal training. There are things like this. So you're thinking of hosting a training event. This is considered a workshop under TR terminology. Grab your go bag or TR 202. And then there's all sorts of other things that you can consider training, but they fall under different categories, like stop the bleed. Couple of things one thing I wanted to show you, I have a link and you'll get these slides, is on the national SharePoint site. So this is TR USA Home. If you go to functional teams and you go down to training, they have so much information on this page with course guidance. So, I'm running a site survey class soon. And if you go down to the site survey guidance, you'll see all sorts of incredible levels of information. Let me zoom in a little bit here so you guys could see it better. But adequate space size, what's the instructor-student ratio? This site is amazing. So if you are thinking about it, don't lose track of SharePoint. There's a lot of questions that have been answered on there. I'm going to go back to here. And let's talk a little bit more about which training. So how do you know what your area needs? We know what TR offers, but how do you know what your area needs? EMS is your friend. I'm going to show you on another slide. Use EMS. City, geo area, branch ops plans, all of your folks that are around you also have a temperature check, especially if someone's been around a while. They could say, oh, that worked, or that worked with this. Your training managers, we've got state training and branch training. A lot of them are on this call. And something you should do regularly as you host service projects and events is talk to your gray shirts. You know, what do you want to see? What would you sign up for? What is it, that thing that you're dying to do? Here I have a graphic of EMS, and I have that pulled up over here also. So this is one of those areas where I say EMS is your friend. Don't be afraid, dig in, be curious. You can't break things. But if you go to dashboards and you click on this little downward and you go to My Metro, it gives you all sorts of crazy cool information about what you need or what you have. So this is My Metro. It gives you, here's your core ops capabilities and your site survey availabilities. It gives you your SAW numbers. It gives you all things, and you can drill down and drill into this data and keep going in. There's no limits to what is available here. It's pretty amazing. And the more I use EMS and the more I get comfortable with these metrics, the better I'm able to figure out what I need to do to target things in my metro. So use this. It's there. It's built for you. You should have access to it. All right. Let's go forward. Picking a date. You're muted, sir. First time.
Yeah, it'll happen frequently tonight. Leah has joined us, so she's got something good to say. Let's have her introduce herself, and if we can back up to her slides, that'd be great, because that helps to lay the foundation for everything we're talking about.
All right, Leah, putting you on the spot here, friend.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. I apologize for being late. We had a bit of an emergency, so I had to run out. I wanted to offer a little bit of perspective with regard to just kind of the current state of affairs with regard to Team Rubicon. Obviously, you guys are here because we've had to kind of hit pause on the in-person events coming into the pandemic and working through it. And that's obviously had some second and third order effects, one of which is that we have seen a marked decrease in engagement, both with regard to volunteers, but also instructors and things of that nature. And it's challenging to look at this, but there's some opportunities in it as well. And I want to kind of set the perspective so that we're going into planning these events with the appropriate expectations. This is not the Team Rubicon of December of 2019. Where we had, 140,000 people on paper and we had great engagement and we were fighting people off with a stick for events. This is the Team Rubicon more so of the middle of 2015, where we didn't have these massive numbers. Harvey hadn't happened and we hadn't seen a doubling of our membership base and, volunteer leaders coming out our ears, et cetera, et cetera. And while that may be frustrating and it may be a little bit disappointing, there's also some incredible opportunities in this. So as we go through these events and we look at planning these quality events, one of the things that I would encourage you to keep in mind is the opportunity to really infuse these new volunteers and some of the more veteran volunteers with our culture and with perspective on where we've been and what we've done and the incredible opportunities that lie in front of us. You guys are the epitome of the culture of this organization, and everything that you do and everything that you say, publicly, privately, makes its way to the forefront of what the volunteers see. So keeping that in mind and really seizing that opportunity to share the culture and share the amazing backbone of this organization with the people that are at your events, with the people that you interact with online, with the people that you mentor, and the people that you engage with. So we really have this amazing opportunity to build this organization in a way that we didn't really have coming into the pandemic because we were very reactionary. But now we have a moment to hit pause and look at what the opportunities in front of us are and plan for this and be more proactive as opposed to reactive. So just keeping that in mind as we talk through planning these events and what a quality event is. Think back to your first days with this organization and what you would consider to be a quality of event, and how can you add value to that, and how can you bring these new volunteers along and share in the culture of this organization and build it essentially from the ground up. So that's my perspective, and I'll stop talking now. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Christy goes to where we were before. Any comments, questions about that perspective that we just heard, which I think is pretty significant and something to kind of keep in the background of our brains throughout this whole process. If anybody wants to chime in, do so on the chat. Raise your hand. No one at this point. Going once. Okay, then we're going to continue. So let's talk about picking it. Oh, Pamela, speak up.
I just want to say that was really good insight because I didn't know like TR's numbers in 2015. So thank you for putting that information in there because I learned something new. So thank you.
Toby?
Toby.
Yeah, I just wanted to also say thanks to Leah for that. You know, we can see evidence of a push to get more instructors, to build the instructor base back up and to reinvigorate with the training activity. But, you know, it's hard to see kind of behind the curtain, you know, what's going on. There have been some hints that, yeah, maybe some instructors had kind of stepped away during this COVID time. So, so it's, you know, good to hear, okay, we acknowledge it and we're trying to overcome it and build back. So, and build back good, shall we say. So thanks, guys.
Okay, we're ready to move on. John, shall I?
Yeah, we have one quick question in the chat. Christy Wells, if you could go back to from a question from Troy Bollinger. Yep. Where was the Metro data in EMS?
Yep, I'll post the link and I'll give you a little bit of a cheat guide in a second, Troy, but I'll post the link also.
Great.
Okay, we're ready to roll, guys.
All right, picking a date. So we're picking a date. I think I made it pretty clear. You've got to plan early. You've got to consult with others who are involved early, because going as far as you can in advance to pick a date, know what your priorities are so that you can pull in the resources and human resources can plan to get themselves there to help you out. Run the dates past your geo area admin or training lead, depending upon if the training lead position is filled in your geo area, and talk early so that you can get it on the calendar so that your event does not conflict with other events. Yeah, you want to have a cut weekend, but that weekend there's 3 other things going on in nearby metros. So it's kind of important to make sure that we're not overloading a particular date or overloading particular trainers when we put this stuff together. Planning in advance helps the training leads pull in instructors from other areas if it's needed to fill the need for your training event. It's good to aim to have your event promoted through 2 newsletter cycles. So if you're having, this is a great time to announce an event in October, so that and maybe even a little late to do something for October if it's the early part of the month. But if it's mid or late October, you can promote your event in the September and October newsletter. And you want to coordinate with nearby metros, and depending upon how close you are to another state or another geo area, an event that can serve a population of gray shirts from contiguous metros can make things a lot more efficient, can have a lot more participation. Okay. Next slide, please.
And I'll just say, just to foot stomp what Neil said, there's not a singular more critical piece in this whole process for me personally to a successful event than having it on roll call for a good amount of time, letting people plan to get there. That's, to me, the most important thing. I'm out. Go, Neil.
Okay, thanks. No, glad you reinforced that notion. One of the things that I like is to create a series or a training cycle of events. So this is an example of something that we've tried and has worked, and I'm going to try to bring with me to my new geo area. Is set up a series where maybe once a month or every 6 weeks or something, you can have a sequence of training events so that people can plan. And again, they're making the decision of which TR training events am I attending, and as opposed to, am I going to attend the event? Now, some of these, like Site Survey and Recon Advon, have been done virtually, but gray shirts can attend these in addition, after taking them virtually, can attend in person. And that is sort of a 1 + 1 = 3 situation, because it really builds upon their knowledge and gives them an opportunity that they wouldn't have had in the virtual class to really exchange ideas, share more real world experiences, and really get a deep understanding to be ready to serve in those roles next time disaster strikes. Okay, next slide, and it's yours, Christy.
I did it. I started talking, but no one had to tell me. Class participation. What's your favorite training venue? So where have you trained that you just loved being there? Finding a venue. I'm going to have a slide in a second that will say this in big words, but you are always, always, always looking for venues as local leaders. And you need to know what this class needs are for whatever class or training that you're putting on. So if you're unfamiliar with what you're planning, take a look at that SharePoint site that I demonstrated earlier. But also, if for ones that are a little bit more complicated, reach out to either an instructor that you know or the cadre lead. For any saw work, definitely include a chainsaw instructor. Most of the needs are similar and predictable. You need some chairs, you need some bathrooms. COVID times, you need some social distancing space. You need to be able to clean, and so take in the COVID rules. Most of the needs are similar, but assist, one time I was running an assist class, man, that surprised me. I lucked out that I happened to have some breakout rooms available, but assist needs breakout rooms. So things of that nature. Make sure you're familiar with the needs of the event. Potential venues, these are tried and true. A lot of VFWs like to partner with us. YMCAs and community centers, colleges, emergency operations centers. We've had training all over the place. So the best event is free. The best venue is free. Try not to spend money on this. I don't think I've ever spent money on a venue. You can almost always find it. Sharon saying fire departments, college campuses, etc. You are always, always, always looking for new venues. Especially, if you go brief the offices of emergency management. The picture on the left is from an assist class at Fairfax Office of Emergency Management. The picture on the right is from it's probably a TR Instructor 1 class in a VFW. You're always looking for classrooms, and you're always looking to expand that out so you can have places at different sites in your metro area. It's not always at one site, and you can touch different counties in your area. So just constantly be on the lookout for new venues, and don't be shy when people say, "How can I help?" Well, do you know of any facilities? That's how you respond to that question. All right, John.
Instructor selection. You've heard it 3, 4, 5 times this evening already. I'm going to reinforce it again. Please plan early. A little reinforcement here is our instructors are volunteers. They've got a life. They've got stuff going on. Everything from, baseball coaches, teachers, they got to work, family, et cetera, et cetera. So please plan early, okay? The process for getting an instructors is simple. The event training lead contacts the respective cadre lead with the date of the event and makes a request for the instructor or instructors. The cadre lead will reach out to the respective cadre, and once the instructors are known, will make the assignment for the class. Okay, I've heard this. This has been asked numerous times before. But I know an instructor. Okay, cool. If you are the event owner, point of contact, and have personal knowledge of or know of a particular instructor they want to use for your event, great. However, contact must be made between the cadre lead and the event owner point of contact regarding situational awareness on any instructors already identified for the event. Why is that? Because the cadre lead might have an instructor already pegged for another event. All right. And then the instructors kind of caught there between crossfires. Well, do I go with my friend? Do I go with what the cadre lead said, et cetera, et cetera? All right. Okay. Last thing is once the instructors are known, it'll be published in EMS, and a training event will not be published in EMS until instructors are assigned. You've heard it before. We'll say it again. Plan early. Thank you.
So EMS can sometimes feel like both a blessing and a curse. If you have been with TR long enough to know the system we were using before, which was very much a patchwork, you'll appreciate how EMS puts all the pieces together. If you're relatively new to EMS, know that support is available. Don't feel intimidated by it. More specifically about EMS related to training events, it's never too early to create a draft. Plant your stake in the ground. In fact, I did a draft of an event a couple of days ago, and then I got a message from somebody who's saying, "Hey, I'm planning something similar 2 weeks later, and let's put our heads together and figure out how we can make the best of this. Do we have 2 events? Do we have 1 event? Where do we have it, etc.?" So other people can see what you're thinking about if you post your drafts early. And it also helps you to clarify your thinking as opposed to, oh my gosh, I got to get this out because I got to get the newsletter. This way you can really craft it and make your descriptions, etc., as great as you possibly can to get more people to sign up. So what do you write in these things? Well, there are thousands of events already in EMS. If you're having say a grab your go bag session, go see what other people have written in theirs so that you can make the best of people who have had previously successful events. Note that in the event description, if you have a national event, it's going to autofill that block. Don't change it. Leave it alone. You got plenty of room in the sections that follow in the session details and other areas where you can put in your details. But if you're doing an event, you hit save and boom, the event description is already there. That's courtesy of National. Leave that alone. Also, when you're doing this, don't assume that you're going to get functional support from logs and comms, for example, just because you entered the information there. Make sure that you contact your local comms person and logs person to be sure they're seeing it and that you get them engaged in making your event as kick-ass as possible also. Next slide, please. Now, one of the things you can do with EMS is, if you're comfortable, kick it up a notch. So you can, as I put on the slide, you can add bold, italics, underline. You can create links. For example, one of the things that I try to create a link for is for a carpool sign up. And in the resources that we send you after the presentation, you'll have the link to, I think it's called groupcarpool.com. And if people are traveling, maybe they can pick somebody up along the way, or maybe someone's looking for a ride. and it can be more convenient for everybody. Don't be shy about reinforcing, saying things very clearly. If you don't have a gray shirt, we'll send you one. If you have dietary requirements, let us know. If you're traveling, well, we're not going to pay for your gas or tolls or anything like that. You're on your own. So you want to be clear about that. And also be clear if billeting and meals is provided so that people can plan accordingly. Next slide, please. One of the things with EMS to make it work for you is to take advantage of some of the cool features. So you can enable or disable the wait list as you feel that is appropriate. Now, if you do enable a wait list, so let's say you can have 12 people in an event or 15 people in an event, the wait list will then allow people to register beyond that limit. Now, what it will do, it will automatically enroll people if somebody drops out. So you really don't have control. It's like, oh, look, so-and-so signed up. I'm going to let them be the next person into the class. You can't really play favorites that way. It's really first in, first out. But you got to monitor the wait list, in part because you want to make sure that the people who are signing up have the prerequisites, and that if they don't have the prerequisites, you get in touch with them. If somebody's, say, the first on the wait list, or maybe first and second on the wait list, let them know that they're first and second on the wait list. Okay, so don't suspend your life, but there's a chance that you're going to be able to get into the event. Just going back to prerequisites really quick for a second. For a national training event, you can select prerequisites, which will automatically post those as part of your event. If you have oddball prerequisites for a workshop you're doing, you're going to have to enter those manually, and you're going to have to look for those manually. Now, if somebody signs up without the prerequisites, don't be a dick about it, but be persistent. Say, look, if you don't have the prerequisites by a week, say a week before the event, or whatever time you think is reasonable, you're going to withdraw them from the event so you can make room for somebody who might be on the wait list. And then final note about EMS is there are opportunities, if you are good at it, to be a guide or a mentor to people who are having struggles with it. And then the converse is totally true also. If you're having trouble, there's plenty of folks who can help. You can give a shout out on Teams, and odds are you're going to get some help pretty quickly. If you need more intense help than a quick answer, I'm sure there are people who would be more than glad to get on a call with you and show you what's what, because we're all in this together to make these events as successful as possible.
We have a question in the chat from John Dudley. Where do we see who has signed up?
Okay, so we're not going to do a deep dive into EMS, although Christy is about to show us there. If you're in an event, thank you. The registration and attendance tab will show you the name of who's registered. So that will include people who are registered. There are people who are withdrawn. If they've withdrawn from they will also be listed as being there. If you have national national prerequisites, they will be already marked as vetted, so you don't have to go back and do that again. So those are all there on your event. Looking at the other questions, are you using Cornerstone platform for all training? No, Cornerstone is the platform for self-service training. So there are two types of online training. We're not really talking about online training today, but I'll take a quick detour. There's the self-service stuff, that you can do on your own, like TR 101, and any number of other opportunities to take classes where you roll call will lead you to these classes. There's also a list of all those classes I can send you if you like. Hall, can you overbook? You can't overbook. You can crapshoot a little bit. Okay, I got a room for 10 people. I'm going to sign up 12. But then if 11 show up, you're going to be in trouble, especially if it's, say, something like a SAW class, where there, or a core ops class, where there are pretty strict requirements as to the ratio of instructors to participants. We're going to talk about no-shows a little bit later, so why don't we hang on to that question until we get to that point, and if you don't get a satisfactory answer, we can come back to that. Does EMS show how far away volunteers are that sign up from the event? Yes, it does. Oh, John Warren, you jumped in there. Thank you.
Yeah, and
question
if
about,
you guys want, there's a SharePoint site, and we can share that with EMS tips and tricks and tools. The way that I've learned it, the way that all of us have done it, is just get in there and play. But we can play in EMS if we have time at the end after we get through everything. We can absolutely play in EMS, and like John, I can pop up your core ops class or whatever we can play around, and we can ask questions. How do you find this? Where do you put that? We're happy to share that information. We would, but we're not tech people, so there's people better at that stuff than us. We're just users of the tech. We're not the tech people. So just FYI, know that you're getting it from users, not the official gurus.
I'm going to answer one more question, and then we'll move on to the next topic. And if you've got a question in your head, save it. We'll come back to it. Pamela asked if we should mention vaccination and mask wearing. There's no reason not to provide that information up front. In terms of the vaccination, they're going to be aware of that when registering, because it will not allow them to register the event unless they've self-certified that they are 2 weeks past their last vaccination. But there's no reason not to mention it along with all of the other particulars that are related to your event. We have nothing to hide in keeping that information from by not presenting that information right up front. Okay,
yeah,
and we'll talk about
in the event description. You've got the general section, and then you've got session details. I've been popping in a bold, COVID requirements, popping in the link to the TR's external facing COVID manual and saying, hey, things are a-changing, but we're going to be following this. Expect some social distancing, bring a mask. I put the mask in the uniform little blurb. And I've been, following those general rules, and you can see other people. I stole it from someone else on EMS. I followed Neil's instructions and went to someone else's EMS entry and stole their language and popped it in my own.
Okay, I'm going to pass the baton back to you, Christy, for budget.
Money, 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 money. My loud husband just got home, so you may hear some. I've got Pips now singing with me. Budget. Don't be afraid. So the first thing I'll say about budget: don't be afraid to spend money. Remember, though, while spending money, that your mother's a donor. So we have a line to draw, and we all have to be very, very respectful of the resources that are given to us. My favorite story about money is I was briefing a group of VOADs, a volunteer organization active in disasters, other nonprofits. Briefing them. It was right after 2017 Hurricane Harvey. I'm giving this briefing. It was all shiny and brand new and really beautiful. And one guy was like, hey, just just throwing this out there, like how much in donations did you guys get last year? And we pulled in a lot of money. I think there was over 100 million. I don't remember numbers, people that are smarter at that, but it was a lot of money for that year. And his response was, we struggle to get $1,000. And so that moment, I will never forget that, of how blessed we are with Team Rubicon, that we have such a compelling mission and a compelling organization that people are giving of their resources. We have to be respectful of those resources and remember to always shine us in a good light. So don't be afraid to spend money. If you want to know the budget for events, this is another place where I'm constantly looking at other folks' events, how I can spend money. A good example of this is there was a set of finance rules that were sort of the norms under Northeast Territory. Well, now that we're North Branch, it's a little bit different. So under Northeast, people used to use their own credit cards and do a lot of reimbursements. Now that we're one North Branch, we're doing a lot more, if not mandatory, close to mandatory, you have to have a PEX card. So that's a good, for instance, of where you're constantly learning and growing and learning from other leaders. So I've got some questions for you. The first one is, can you spend less on breakfast? You budget, you put all your meals in, you use your $7 for breakfast and your $10 for lunch. Can you spend less on breakfast and a little bit more on lunch? So give me some answers. We got Sherilyn Wasser, our branch finance person, on the line. So she's going to correct me and yell at me when I'm wrong. Yeah, so absolutely. You've got some maneuverability in your budget. Just don't go over. So I guess I just answered my next question. Don't go over your budget. Stay under your budget. Be respectful. Can you pay for non-TR participants? So let's say you've got doing a project with the National Park Service coming up. I've got a couple of their representatives that are going to be on site. Can I pay for their lunch? Yeah, absolutely. I can pay for that lunch. And just add that to your finance plan. PEX cards, public service announcement. There's a link to the PEX form. The PEX form is also on roll call under leader admin. If you go to roll call, you can get it there, access it there. But if you don't have a PEX card, don't wait any longer. Hot, get on there, get PEX, get it activated, get it ready to go so that when it's time for you to put on an event, you already have your PEX card in hand and you can get that funded for your event when the time comes. Also, just again, we have Sherilyn Wasser, the better half of John Wasser, on the line. She is our branch finance person, and she is here. If you have any money questions, throw them in. She is the woman with the plan. If it's not spent at the event, do I lose it? They do reconciliation of your PEX cards, Peter, but I'd leave that to Sherilyn. Sherilyn, if you wouldn't mind jumping in the chat and answering what happens to PEX overages when you're done with an event, that'd be awesome. So let's talk a little bit about comms. So comms before the training. You can reach this out in your EMS. There's a, do you want comms? Yeah, I'm going to click that button, yes, and you can just put like normal social media. I want Facebook, I want Twitter, I want all of the things. You can reach out to the North Branch communications team. Be prepared for newsletters, and Neil is going to talk in a second about email automation, but it's a new, cool, fun feature. It's got some quirks, but Neil's going to talk about those. And then another new-ish comms availability is a photographer for events. Now we have to pay money for photographers. It's not like, hey, I'm going to get a photographer at all of my events. You can still take pictures yourself, but that's a newer availability. And if there's something that you're doing that's really cool, that you think a photographer would help tell our story, throw it in there, or talk to your geo admin, talk to your ops folks, and you might be able to, get some money for a photographer to come over to your event. All right, let's talk a little bit more about comms. Couple of best practices for during your event. Take your pictures, make sure you take some action shots, and draft your social media blurbs with tags for comms. It doesn't mean they're going to use it, but when you send your pictures into North Branch Comms, when you send your your information in. If let's say you've partnered with a local VFW, use the @ symbol and tag them in their actual social media title. Give that to our comms folks and make it easy so that we can continue to partner with them and they get the recognition that they deserve in partnership with a social media presence. And then you can send pics to our comms folks. And sometimes, I haven't done this with North Branch, but when we were Northeast, I would send it during event, and during the event, 100% don't expect it, but they put that on social media. And how cool is that to tell gray shirts, hey, this event is already up and highlighted, thank you for your support, go look at Facebook. It's a really cool little nugget that sometimes happens. Don't expect it to happen, but the easier you make it for our comms friends, the more likely you're going to get that recognition. Pro tip, this helped me personally, and I don't know if it helped others, but I personally have followed the social media presence of a lot of the partner organizations locally. So that looks like the offices of emergency management, that looks like the VFWs, that looks like anything that I work with regularly, so I can see what they're doing and they can see that what they do matters to me. And it's also helped foster a really good relationship. And it's easy, it's just a click, I like it, or I'll put a little blurb or a comment on it. Super easy to do, and just a good little pro tip. And I think, Neil, I'm over to you, sir.
Thanks. So everyone here got this sort of long fake dispatch instruction as if this was a live event. And you will observe, I think you observed immediately, that brevity is not my specialty, but you want to set expectations for folks who are attending your event, including letting them know that the reason you're doing this is to have a great experience. You want to send this out, and we've got some tools to help do that at least a week prior to the event. Remind people that if they're not going to show up, especially if you've got a wait list and you've got a limited number of seats, that they need to withdraw, and even provide instructions on how to withdraw, provide transportation information. A lot of the things that were listed in EMS can be repeated in the dispatch instructions, because it just might be based on how the participant works. It's going to be easier for them to reference back to this email. Now, one of the things that I like to do, and not many folks responded to it for the fake one for this event, but I have found works pretty well for real in-person events, is to create a little survey. You can do that in Microsoft Forms, where you can ask those questions. Do you have a gray shirt? If you need a gray shirt, then what size do you need? Do you have dietary restrictions? We'll talk about that a little more. My lead question is always the basic question. Yeah, I'm going to be there. Or, oops, something happened, I can't make it, and I'm going to withdraw from roll call, so that you're getting people to show up. If you've got 20 people registered and 10 show up, it's could be more than just the cost of 10 bagels at breakfast and a couple of pizzas at lunch. It's opportunity cost, because there may just be, and we hope we can create the environment where people are going to want to come to your event, and you're going to be leaving some people out because people didn't show up at the last moment. For those of you who have attended sessions that I've run, you will know that I am a total dick when it comes to no-shows. You could be nicer, but if I've got a live event and I've sent you a reminder that you've got to withdraw, or I'm going to put a no-show on your permanent record card, and you don't show up, I'm going to put a no-show on your permanent record card. That's not going to exclude you from anything, but there's a big difference psychologically when you say no-show versus withdrawn. Next slide, please. So what's a good way to get out set of dispatch instructions. The email automation function in EMS is a great way to do it. So I'm going to suggest that you get to know that, ask for help. We're not going to get stuck in the weeds, but just to give you an idea, on the left-hand side is a sample of an email automation, and on the right-hand side is a sample of the interface in Roll Call. There are some really good training videos available for this, and again, help on Teams if you need it. Next slide, please. So there are some good things about email automation. I mean, this thing has been a long time coming, and this can really be a very powerful tool. It looks like a personal email, except for that little thing at the bottom, because we have to meet some federal requirements for identifying stuff on a bulk email. It looks like a message from you to the gray shirt. It's not, a blind copy or anything like that. You can time it flexibly, so you can plan it in advance, get it written, get it approved, and have it go out when you want it to go out. You can granularly target it. Okay, I want gray shirts to attend my TR202, my Grab Your Go bag, from these metros who signed up in TR since the beginning of the pandemic. I want gray shirts who are not deployable. I want gray shirts who are deployable. So you can really make your audience as targeted as possible to try to get people through the door of your event. And as I mentioned before, I used it for the fake dispatch instructions and the real dispatch instructions, which if you signed up before, I think yesterday, you got that email. So that's the good stuff about email automation. But, okay, there's also some things that are not so good. And you want to be aware of that. You could have people who have declined to accept bulk emails from Team Rubicon. So they may not get the email from you. You're risking, and something that is a real issue that we have to face is communications fatigue. So if in a week like this week, where National has sent out several emails, there might be a state newsletter. If you're going to join in the pile, you're going to get people going, why doesn't TR leave me alone for a few minutes here? So there's that risk there. The workflow in EMS can be very confusing. And I think our tech team did a really good job putting this together with the requirements that they have. But I think that you want to try to find someone in your metro or geo area, or someone you want to work with to help you through this. There's one of the gotchas is there's no preview. So you don't get a second chance to figure out if it works or not, if what you did looks good, or if your email has spinach in its teeth. So if you take care, ask for help, you can get a lot of good out of this email automation function. Were there some questions for me, Christy, or?
Yeah, let's take a minute to go through a couple of them, because there's some that are relevant and some that are going to lead really nicely into John's next section. John, if you can let Sherilyn know, a couple of them are for hers. One of the questions I do think we should highlight is when should we order printed materials beforehand? I answered in the chat, but it's important to foot stomp here that right now the print shop is down, so please plan to print materials. There's a lot of printing resources, and if you need to know how to print them, go to that training SharePoint site we showed at the beginning. It's got an example of where to print them and how to print them. But you need money to do that, so just make sure that you include that in the finance section of your event proposal. So right now, print shop's down. That's the main message there. Are there limits to which leaders can get PEX cards? And I'm gonna ask Sherilyn if she can answer that in the chat if she's still around. I think it's, if you're a leader and you're hosting an event, you should get a PEX card. I think that that's the rule, but I'm not the expert there.
Yeah, she's still on. She's typing as we speak, so answer coming.
And then there was a question about ratio. The ratio certainly will be impacted by your facility. So I think there was a student instructor ratio piece, and then separate, does your ratio, is it impacted by COVID? And John's going to talk about that, but yeah, we still have to have that, you know, that safety of the gray shirt is critical. Hey, someone else who's more familiar is can TR pay for the, we're paying for TR photographers, right? And Neil, you said sometimes we pay for their travel expenses.
That's been my experience, yeah.
John Dudley said, what if other folks want, like FEMA reps, want to attend our class? Anyone want to take that?
As far as, well, just as an invite type thing, can you invite a non-TR member to a class? Is that,
well,
John Dudley, is that the question?
Actually, I'm just saying that we had a conference call and they want to learn more about us. And when we told them that we were going to do this class, and they're like, well, I'd like to attend that. So I'm going to let them attend because it's growing the relationship. You know, we can't give them any certifications or anything because they're not TR members, but it's good for them to be there. Would you agree?
I think it depends. In my opinion, if that question was posed to me, if it was a grab your go bag event and Leah's got her hand up, I'd love to throw it to her. It would depend on the type of event. If it was a core ops class or something where there's a potential for liability, I would raise it to my ops person, which I'm glad Leah's raising her hand. But if it was something just informational, I would err on the side, yeah, come on and learn about it. If it was more of a formal TR class where you're taking a seat away from a gray shirt, we might have something different. Leah, you want to jump in here, ma'am?
Yeah, so on an in-person event, because of COVID, because of the requirement for vaccination status, they need to sign up and be a TR member in order to go through the vetting process in order to attend an in-person event. You know, outside of pandemic times, we played a lot looser with that. But now, given the circumstances and the requirement for vaccines, we can't verify their vaccination status without them being a TR member and going through roll call and the registration process.
And I would have blown that one out my derriere. Thank you, Leah. Glad you answered that one, girlfriend. Good job.
Yeah.
Glad to actually be of help.
There's a question about SmugMug for service projects and training events. I believe SmugMug is used sometimes for them, but not consistently. I don't know who's our link to SmugMug, but you might want to check in with our comms folks. Does that sound right, team?
Yeah, just to make sure. I mean, obviously, if they want to take pictures of a training event, I don't think there's a whole lot of problems. But we don't want to get the, like on operations, you know, the disaster tourist routine type. You want to stay clear of all that stuff. But a training event, I haven't heard otherwise, but that doesn't mean I'm right.
And
we had a national photographer attend a training event, and the event was posted to SmugMug. So there may be a relationship between who assigns the photographer and whether it makes it to SmugMug. But as you said, the comms folks are probably the folks to answer that.
There we go.
Ed put in some of the, if you folks are interested in this email automation, go watch these videos that Ed Amrine put in. He's tech, he's smart, and he put the links in there. I watched those videos and I was way smarter after. So watch the videos for the email automation. And then some answers to questions. So the FedEx office needs a couple of days. If you're going to print, make sure you plan ahead. Sherilyn answered the question about PEX cards. So any leader in the North Branch can get a PEX card. And with photographers, we can pay for that. So I am going to go ahead and advance us to the next slide and throw this back to Mr. Wasser.
And this is the downer topic of the evening. Everyone's royal pain in the butt, and I'll make no bones about it from a training perspective. it's a challenge. Okay. COVID-19 safety protocols subject to change. Stay up to date. See the COVID-19 operations manual on roll call. It's right there on the front page. There's the link for the operations manual. Okay, golden rule for Team Rubicon is, gang, gray shirts and instructors must be vaccinated to participate in an in-person event. An individual instructor is considered fully vaccinated when the following conditions are met. 2 weeks have passed after completing the second dose of a 2-dose COVID-19 vaccination, such as Pfizer or Moderna, or 2 weeks have passed after receiving a single dose of a 1-dose vaccine, such as Johnson & Johnson, and gray shirt acknowledges vaccination status at the time of activity registration and attests to their vaccination status on their roll call profile. Okay? Bottom line, it's real simple. You want to play in TR's game, you got to be vaccinated. Thanks for the slide change. We're there. Okay, let's cover a couple of the what are we masking up for, et cetera, et cetera. Team Rubicon requires masking indoors at all in-person events. Outdoor settings, we will resume the practice of social distancing for outdoor events. When social distancing is not feasible, masking is required. For isolated independent activities like sawyer or heavy equipment work, masking is not required. However, for you sawyers, at the end of the workday when you're gathered around the team kit cleaning saws, social distance please and mask up. Community settings, all interactions with the community will wear masks. Practice social distancing, even if gray shirts are vaccinated. Okay? What is social distancing? 6 feet. Food and meal plans for your event. See pages 19 and 20 of the manual. It's way too much to cover here, so in the interest of time, briefly, the food unit leader should be the only person in contact with food or related supplies and equipment for food distribution during the event, but other duties can be delegated. Once again, read the manual. If you're in transit, see pages 20 to 23. It gets in detail, it covers everything, but again, briefly, anytime there is more than one person in a car or truck, mask up. Fully vaccinated gray shirts may fill a vehicle to capacity, as many gray shirts as there are seatbelts. Be safe, stay safe, okay? If flying, adhere to airlines rules and regulations. Contact with the public, as previously stated, mask up. Billeting, see pages 17 and 19 in the manual, but in the interest of time for this presentation, here are some quick highlights. Billeting in 5 locations will be separate. Non-TR members, visitors, non-essential visitors are not allowed in FOB, billeting, team bathrooms, eating areas, shared spaces. Bedding will be 6 feet apart. CPAP users billeted in individual rooms separated by a door from other rooms or shared spaces. That's a mouthful in about 3 minutes. Don't forget to wash your hands when you do anything, everything. Okay? And yeah, including that too. Okay? Any questions before we move on? I know that was a mouthful. It's a lot to cover. Folks, I mean, I'll tell you, it sucks. It's not fun, but yeah, you ain't kidding. Good picture, John Dudley. Next slide and batter up logistics. Let's go.
So these are the things you don't want to hear during setup. What password? Who's got the PowerPoint? I thought you had the PowerPoint. You know, the big screen TV that's here that we're connecting to has what kind of connector that I don't have? You don't want to be in that position. Next slide. So in order to prevent that from happening, you need to coordinate. We talked about that before as part of the planning process. in terms of getting things set up, but you want to make sure that your coordination continues up through the event among you, the instructors, the training people who are not there but are helping to make things happen in the background, and also the participants, because it's very likely if you have a logistic need, it might be something that one of the participants can help you solve. And remember, they're in it also. So you don't have to, for example, do all the setup by yourself before everybody shows up, but you can make it a socially distanced team effort to get things set up. And of course, for DMOB, that's also a team effort. Next slide, please. So in terms of what you need to gather, you need to make a list, your presentation materials, etc. We'll have a list that we'll send you after the session as part of our follow-up information. Have some extra gray shirts for the people who spaced out and didn't say, hey, I don't have a gray shirt. Have a Sharpie so people can write their names on it. You want to verify with the instructors, and if you get log support, who's doing what, who's bringing what, to make sure that there is no misunderstanding about who's got responsibility for things. If you're doing something for the first time, if this is your first site survey class, don't be afraid to ask questions so you're clear as to what the needs of the instructors are, to make sure that either they're packing them or that you're going to get those needs for them. Some sessions use materials. I mean, there's drywall kits for core ops. There's markers and flip pads and etc. What are you going to need? Are you going to need does your location have a refrigerator to keep water cold, or are you going to need a cooler? Are you going to need paper goods for meals? Can you get a hold of some swag? Every geo area has a small swag budget, and these events are a great place to get your leadership to sign off on getting you some. We talked about print materials before. I'm not going to get into that again, but tech requirements. Again, who's got the PowerPoint? Is there a backup someplace? Is it online? If it's online, does somebody have the password to get it down from the SharePoint site to make sure that you can get a hold of it? And all of the connectors, adapters, etc. Just make sure you've got that. And DMOB is more than just going, okay, everybody, let's clean up. If things have to happen, if coolers need to be dumped and washed, if trash needs to be taken out so that we leave the venue TR clean for our hosts, then know what you need to do. Try to plan that in advance so that it goes off flawlessly. Were there some questions there, or shall I carry on?
I think we're tracking. You're good, Neil. Keep on going.
Okay, great. Meal plan. Basically, the main thing with the meal plan is to have one. Don't wait, assume that, I got this budget, and the morning of the event, I'm going to stop by 7-Eleven and get everything that we need. Caffeine beverages in the afternoon are always great for an event that goes beyond lunchtime. Note, and a couple of things, just some tips. If you offer breakfast, not everyone's going to have it. People may grab another cup of coffee, but a lot of folks, especially if you've got folks who are nearby, they're going to grab something at home before they head off. So whereas if you have lunch in the middle of your session, you definitely want to have one for everybody. You can go a little shy for breakfast. If you have a 2-day event, you don't have to provide the overnight dinner, but you want to think about whether that's reasonable in the age of COVID to probably provide that so that you are not sending people out into a community they may not know and put them at risk. 2 things I've learned in catering, helping to cater a bunch of events. that gray shirts don't eat veggie pizza. Okay, put meat on it. For the vegetarians, serve plain pizza because there aren't going to be enough of them to eat the veggie pizza. That a plain pizza is fine. And then my second recommendation is a little fruit never killed anybody. So if you got some bananas or apples along with breakfast or lunch and they're hanging out during the day, you'd be surprised how people might go after that. There are people who have very real dietary requirements, not preferences, but real requirements. There are times when we can meet them and there are times when we can't. Be realistic about it. So if you have a situation where someone, you can't meet someone's requirements, where, you know, for example, someone has celiac disease and it has to be 1,000% gluten-free with no contamination, yada, 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 you may just want to say, look, at this particular event, we can't help you out, but please bring your own. We'll make it up to you somehow in the future. And also have a plan about leftovers, because no matter what, there's going to be some. There are sort of two paths you could take. Gray shirts with kids at home. You know, if you've got leftover pizza, that's breakfast for the kids. Or you can identify a local agency that may take your leftover food. If your leftovers include things like closed bottles of water or other non-alcoholic beverages, which is pretty much what you're serving during the breakfast and lunch, you can figure out with your logs people where those can be stored, or you can take those with you, let your logs people know, so that for the next event that needs bottles of water, hey, I've got this whole case of unopened water left over because nobody was thirsty. So make a plan for that. Yes, Vanessa, take a beverage home for the trip home. Absolutely. All right, next slide. Oh, we're there.
Oh shit moments, everyone's got them. I'll give you mine and Neil will give you his. If you have any oh shit moments, throw them in the chat because these are fun. It was, I think, the day of, I was putting on a weekend long, starting on a Friday night, ICS 300 class, a couple of hours before the event, and I realized, oh shit, I have no printed materials. And the printed materials for ICS 300 are pretty thick, and it was a maxed out waitlisted class, and I was running. I had to actually go to the FedEx office down the block, plead with them, sit with them, and it was like, it was a disaster. I'll never not have print materials again, but I'll throw it over to Neil. Neil's got a fun one too.
So it's 6:30 in the morning. I dumped my stuff at the venue, ran downstairs to Dunkin' Donuts to grab the breakfast, and realized that I had locked my keys inside the venue and could not get back in. It took about a half an hour, but fortunately, I was able to wake up a fortunately very understanding venue manager who came by with the keys. And if I didn't mention it to the people who were there, it never, none of them would have known. But yeah, that was my oh shit moment. Anyone else? Toby, you brought the wrong PPT. Okay. How did you recover from that?
PowerPoint, yeah, it was terrible. I looked and I put the slides up on the screen. I thought, oh my gosh, this is a version from like a week ago. So luckily they had internet access. So I got their Wi-Fi password, got on the internet, was able to, the current one was stored on one of those OneDrive setups on the cloud. So I was able to pull it down and recover, but oh, what a heart stopper. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm missing half the slides. It was terrible. Lots of fun.
One of the things is gray shirts are usually pretty understanding because we've all had oh shit moments. So Troy, how did it work out for you at your event? You said got to get the bar oil and the fuel. Did you have something to do that first day?
Well, luckily that was a preview. It was only 3 of us out there, advanced sawyers, and one of the other ones could run and get the bar and fuel oil. There was a mix-up actually between logs bringing all the saws and other equipment, and I had originally put in my budget request for bar oil and fuel, and then I forgot about that and didn't go buy it. So it was my fault. But we got the cutting we needed done that morning, and it was a good learning experience because the next day when 14 people showed up, we had bar oil and fuel.
Yeah, they're scary. The OSHIP moments, man. I know we'll all have more of them. I'm sure I'll have more of them, especially as we're learning new, the new way of doing business. It'll be interesting. Charles, that's awful. We had a logs guy get the wrong oil. It wasn't bar oil. That sucks. That's why you coordinate. That's why I don't do those things by myself. And you work with your logs and your instructors to make sure you have the right stuff. During the event, just a couple more slides, guys. We're getting close to the end here, and then we're gonna have lots of time for discussion. So just a little preview of what's to come. Always have a sign up sheet, sign in sheet. I like to have EMS open personally as folks arrive. I have a sign up sheet, but also I just check them right there, so I don't have double work when I'm writing the AAR later. I use EMS. I use it sometimes on my cell phone and sometimes on my computer, but I mark people attended in EMS as they get there. Neil already said this, but deputize your gray shirts in whatever it is you need. Especially if you're running a massive event, if you're running a saw class and you are going to be running around getting some last minute stuff, and you see someone signed up on your list for this training event, ask them if they can do the whatever. Can they pick up the printed materials? Can they be your, right now we have a little bit more of control over food, but before the COVID times, they'd be like, hey man, it really helped me out if you could get breakfast, and I'll make sure to pay for it if you could just pick it up. Deputize your attendees. It helps you as the POC not be running around. Also remember, as Metro local leaders, you have now a team. We are developing these resilient cities. So make sure that you're using your teams and your Metro teams to support each of the functions in the events. Practice TR culture. This is a lot of times when I hand out my swag at events, I will pick a cultural principle that I think is related. Sometimes it comes up naturally. Sometimes it's a little bit forced, but I'll try to always infuse some level of TR culture and our principles into an event. And, just keeping the culture alive. We are protectors of it. This isn't a culture class at all, but it is something that I find critical in event success, is to have some moments where you're just shooting the shit about TR and you just take a minute to breathe. Take photos, at least one group shot, and Neil already talked about swag and having some swag there. We essentially plan, I'm not going to read but you get the point. Make sure that you're planning, and again, going back to one of those first slides, the more you plan, the earlier you get this on, the more you have for all of this stuff to go wrong and then go right again. At the end, you're going to have to do a couple of things. You're going to have to return the materials to their originating location. So remember your demo plan. Make sure you have a demo plan. If you have extra manuals, remember your mother's a donor. Let's say you did a core ops class and you printed out 20 manuals and only 16 showed up. Well, we have 4 manuals now that we can do something with, and save those. Ask your logs or save them until your next class. Make sure that you're figuring out what you're going to do with your extras. You're going to have to send your participants follow-up information. So keep track or keep note or have some way to keep yourself organized. Just like right now, I promised, I think it was Troy, but I promised someone in the chat I'd give you a link to where to find the My Metro dashboard. Keep track of those commitments as you're going through your day, so you remember to follow up. And sometimes you want to follow up with the big group, and sometimes it's individual